So let's start real quick with what are some things that we cannot control? Well, first and foremost, one of the things that none of us can control is where we came from. Like you can't control the, you know, city you grew up in. You can't control the parents that you had or the family that you had. You can't control your circumstances as a child. You cannot control those things. Those things are outside of your control and outside of your ability to make them different. So that is a particular thing that even though we can't control it, you know, a lot of people still overcome it. But it's one of the biggest things that can hold individuals back is where they came from. But the fact that you can't control it should make you, as you move forward, want to make the decisions to either maintain what you were taught as a child or maintain the place that you were born and maintain how you were raised, or do better. Most people want to do better for their kids than was done for them. So you may want to do better for your kids, and you may want to push harder and get better jobs and make more money and be able to do better for your family. Or you may simply be in a place where you don't know what to do. You may be in a place where you don't know any different than what you see around you, and that is a huge issue. But those are things we cannot control. And I think that sometimes blaming people for these things that they cannot control, is a dangerous thing to do. Even though everybody, again, has the free will and ability to make decisions, sometimes it is difficult to get over those early things that we couldn't control. Now, what else can we not control? We can't control what others do or say to us. And that's a very important thing, because I think a lot of us get caught up in what others think, what others say, what others do. And you can't control those things. You can't control the decision making of others. You can only control what's in your head. You can't control the decision making of others. And given that is the case, then others shouldn't be impacting your decision making. Others that you do not necessarily trust or do not ask their opinion or do not look for their opinion should not be giving it to you. And you should not be, if they do give it to you unsolicited, then you should not be taking it to heart. It should not be something that affects you down to your core. But a lot of people let it do that. A lot of people let it get to the heart of them and make them miserable. They're miserable because they think that other people think a certain way about them. And that's a tough place to be, because you should not care. Forget what other people think about you, because you cannot control it. All you can control, and we'll talk about this in a little while, is how you react to what people think and what people do and all of those things. You can control those reactions, but you cannot control how those people choose to treat you and act around you and the things that they do to you. You can't control that. And for many of us, we have to make the conscious effort, the thought process, put the thought process in of, I'm not going to let so-and-so ruin my life, ruin my experience, ruin my fun. I'm not going to let so-and-so do things to me because that's out of my control. I'm just going to live the way that I would choose to do and not put so much stock into what that person thinks or says. And this is a very hard thing to do, but it will make us a lot more joyful, a lot more content, a lot more happy in the long term if we just chose to do this. Now, financially, a couple things that you can't control are things like emergencies. And we've talked about emergencies and our need for emergency funds, and how putting an emergency fund in place is insurance against tragedy. It's what I've called it in the past, is insurance against tragedy. And by calling it this, tragedy is something that we cannot control. We cannot control these emergencies. We cannot control tragedies occurring. And so having some insurance against tragedy is a big thing. And you cannot control emergencies. In a similar way, you cannot control death. You cannot control death occurring. And so that's why there are things like life insurance, because you cannot control, if you get in a bad car wreck and die today, what is going to be left for your family? What situation is your spouse going to be in? Things like that. They're very real. But again, you cannot control those things occurring. You can control the aftermath a bit, by putting yourself in a position, having the emergency fund in place, having life insurance in place, things like that. But you cannot control the actual thing occurring. And that's a common theme among things that you cannot control, is that you have some things that you can put in place that will help you if those things do occur, and you can control those things, but you cannot control the actual occurrence of the emergency, the tragedy, any of the things that we are talking about that you cannot actually control. And then I want to quickly talk about this. You also cannot control the stock market. And I know we're talking about a lot of personal and emotional things a moment ago, but you can't control the stock market either. And that's something financially that you cannot control. You cannot control the volatility. You cannot control how much it goes up or how much it falls or how crazy it is, how wild it is. You can't control that. And the fact that you can't control that should put you in this camp based on history, because we've talked before about market crashes, what the stock market is, how the stock market works, all of those types of things. But this should put you in a camp where you think, okay, I can't control its day-to-day movement. I can't control what it's going to do between now and a year from now. I can't control what my annualized returns are going to be over my working life. I can't control those things. But I can look at history and say, what should I expect? And then the short-term things are not going to stress us out as much. The short-term things are not going to give us as much grief if we already have the knowledge beforehand. Once again, this is something that we can put in place. The knowledge, the understanding of the stock market, the understanding of how it works, actually being involved in it and feeling out how it works is going to allow you to be in a lot better place if you actually do see a lot of volatility, if you do actually see the stocks falling hard, or certain things occurring, and panic is on the outset. We need to be able to react to those things, and we need to be able to set ourselves up to where we are not lost when those things happen, and that we're not forced to sell because we are emotionally distraught about it. We need to be able to control our emotions, control what we think about things through the knowledge, through the education and understanding about the stock market itself. But that is something you can't control. You cannot control the movements in the stock market or the economy or anything of that nature. And so that's kind of, just in a nutshell, a few things that we can't control. There are definitely more things, and I'd be glad to hear what you have to say about those if you leave those in the comments down below. Other things that we can't control